second point that I get a lot is no, not everyone here is way smarter than you are, right? And I know that you may not believe it because everybody around you is really, really smart, right? But everybody here is smart in different ways. And I think part of it is believing in yourself. Everybody that I interact with during class, I know is capable of great stuff. So I didn't always feel this way. In fact, when I first came here to Stanford, I thought I had gotten in because Bob wrote a recommendation letter. And I thought that Bob wrote the recommendation letter because he just felt so bad for me that I had worked so hard at Linear. But anyways, I got in, and Bob said, go see Greg Kovacs. Professor Greg Kovacs is my friend, and see what you can do. So I went there, and Greg said, oh, why don't you come to my research group? We'll just kind of like figure out if there's something here for you. So I showed up to the research group meeting, and they're tiny rooms. And everybody first looked really tall. But second, they were speaking a language that I could barely understand. And it got worse. At some point, this guy, he's my friend now, John Suh, he stood up and said, oh, I'm going to demo what I've done. And he had this little chip that it was kind of the first autonomous micro robot. It would like move on the table and carry these paper clips. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where am I? This place is crazy that people have moving chips. What am I doing? So I literally went home, and Matt was still my boyfriend at that point. He was a really smart person. And I said, okay, I quit. I'm going to go in tomorrow. Maybe they'll give me my tuition back if I'm lucky. We have to figure out the visa situation because I can't stay here unless I have a visa. And my husband, Matt, said, I remember, he said, listen, do you want to be the smartest person on that research group? Or you want to be the dumbest person? Because if you are the dumbest person, you're going to learn something. It's like playing tennis. You always want to play up. You don't want to have your tennis class with somebody that is worse than you. And at least that was enough to get me through the next few days. So I eventually did graduate. There's a picture of my graduation. But the time that I was here, I want to tell for anybody in the audience, was actually really, really hard. I was always feeling like I didn't belong. I would go through this cycle. I actually, for those EEs in the audience, they know that if you want to get a PhD, you have to take this exam called the quals. And it's very mystified because, you know, it's part of the story. But I was completely convinced I would never pass the quals, right? I was just convinced. I was so scared that I wouldn't even look at the results. So I had to actually send Matt, who I think I don't know if he was my husband at that time. I was like, just go look at it. I can't even look at it. And then once I passed, I would tell everybody, I was so lucky. I got the right professors to ask me the questions that I knew, and that's why I passed the quals. And I was just convinced of that, right? So now, obviously, I know that has a name. At the time, I didn't know. That's called imposter syndrome. Even my 10-year-old knows imposter syndrome. They teach it in school now, in elementary school, so that's good. But at the time, I didn't know. I know now also that 70% of the population has it. So the other 30% are very, very loud people, and they're probably, they're on Twitter, tweeting about themselves. So, but it does exist, right? And I think it was a big problem for me because in many occasions, I didn't raise my hand when I should have, and I didn't say that I could do it, and I didn't take the opportunity to do something that felt hard. So I don't want that to happen to anybody in this room. Anybody can do anything they want. It's just a matter, you know, of wanting to do it. So even sometimes I get this feeling of imposter syndrome coming. And now I have two techniques. One is whenever I go into a room and I feel like everybody's really smart, I keep saying I'm playing up, and that's okay. And the second thing I do is I over-prepare. So even this talk today, you may think it just comes naturally, but actually I did prepare. And I decided to scan a bunch of the papers that I did as I was preparing for the talk to give you a sense. So if you do this, I think I scribbled around 50 pages even before I figured out what I was going to talk about. So it's okay to prepare and admit that you actually work to get something done.